Go.
Okay, so welcome everybody. If anyone is watching, I'm happy you're here. Today we have a really special guest, Xia Taptara. I hope I have not butchered how you pronounce your name, but
That's fine. Just Z is fine. Yeah.
yeah. So, if you could tell us a bit about yourself, where do you come from, and all the basic informations.
Yeah, hello. I'm Xia Taptara. So you might know me from the other YouTube channel, theartclasses.com. I usually live in Seattle, Washington in the United States, but right now I'm in Bangkok. So actually, I grew up in Bangkok, and um, I went to the US and worked for a bunch of people at the video game companies, and I also do YouTube um, for the hell of it, like for fun. And since I don't know 2010, so that's been about 10 years on YouTube and doing like drawing and painting and all that kind of crap. And it was fun, get to know a lot of interesting people there and also a lot of interesting people in the video game side of thing. And so I work on a bunch of video games like from Disney Interactive, ArenaNet, Square, and then I came back to Bangkok and then I worked at the Monk Studio, which is like an animation studio. They don't do games. They are animation studio and special effects studio, and I was the senior art director over there, helping them make animation for like it basically was an outsourcing company for the US company.
Mhm.
So we're making animation for them. So we doing from models, concept models, animation, effect, and all that kind of stuff. And usually we'll get the feedback from the mother company, and they'll send the feedback to us, and we have meeting like on a daily basis.
Mhm.
And now I'm owning my own company called Namsan Digital. So you can go to namsandigital.com if you want outsourcing your video game art and stuff like that. So, anyways,
Yeah,
thanks for having me here. Yeah.
and the links will be down in the description below. Also, if
Okay.
someone is not familiar with Xia works, he has like a lot of different tutorials. I guess it's over 400 videos on his YouTube channel, so definitely you should go in there. Also, as far as I know, he's selling some of his tutorials on his page, idrawgirls.com. I guess this is
Yep.
the current link. So just go there and support him if you would like to support him. And also for me, I'm extremely happy for this meeting because pretty much you are the first, or maybe one of the first, but probably the first digital artist I have ever seen and I have ever like listened to while I was practicing. And my first digital painting ever made was actually based on one of your mechas drawing. So
Oh, thank you.
even
Appreciate it.
for me, this is like a really, let's say, special moment.
Oh,
So
thanks.
yeah,
Thanks.
I can easily say you're one of my like art heroes, and
Oh,
I
I'm glad.
easily have been watching your videos for over 10 years now. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Thanks,
I
man.
pretty much
Appreciate it.
started with you, and you are the reason why I bought digital tablet. Uh,
Oh, thanks.
so, like, I would like to ask you, like, mostly the questions about how to start doing art because, like, of the reasons I previously, like, mentioned. So, why you even started doing art? Like, what is your story? Why art interested you in the first place?
Uh, I'm not really sure why. I guess I kind of read a lot of comics back when since I was a kid. So I just kind of was intriguing by the design and the story and all those kind of stuff with like especially I grew up in Bangkok, so we have access to like a bunch of manga and or Japanese comics, and then some of the Chinese comic, which they're all in pretty much color or something. So I kind of start reading those, and after a while, you kind of like trying to draw a stick figure and all those kind of stuff, which, and then when you start drawing, it's kind of you get into the state of like um, thinking about your own self and your own world. So I guess that's kind of the beginning of like I like going back to um, where I have my imagination and all that kind of things that would, I'm not sure. I just like to be by myself if I'm not playing with friends.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like two-sided. I like to kind of like come back, and it's kind of hard for me to like talk and draw. And because I haven't done this in such a long time. It's fun though.
Yeah, I guess like a lot of folks have this problem. It's hard to concentrate. And for like the when you started, so basically you pretty much draw as for as long as you remember, right?
Yeah,
And
pretty much.
around
Yeah.
what age or at what stage of your like art endeavor you decided you want to make it professionally? Like, do you want to be a professional artist?
As far as I know, I always wanted to like do this all the time. I'm not sure how am I gonna get paid, but when I was a kid, it's
Hmm.
kind of like I don't think there was such a thing as a game developer. Usually there are like cartoonists on a magazine, you know what I mean,
Hmm.
or stuff like cartoon strip or things like that. But when I was a kid, I wasn't really thinking about it. I just like doing it. And actually, I went to the university for business and
Oh.
economics. There's nothing art about what I was doing at all. But then I met some friend who kind of, got me into animation. And then after that, I sort of, oh wait, I actually, when I was in the state, I was trying to get a 3-page or 6-page sample to send
Hmm.
it to DC and Marvel. I went to Comic Con and stuff right around the time that I was with my friend, and he worked at this company that making children's game for um, Disney. So I tried to send my portfolio there, and then I kind of got a job there. That's how I get started um, drawing, basically.
Oh, nice. So basically,
Yeah.
you started drawing when you got the job, like
Yeah.
professionally.
Oh, no, no, no. I draw
Ah,
like way back when I was
okay,
like
okay.
11, 12. Yeah, basically. And then I kind of quit in high school and
Hmm.
college. And I kind of got back into it again after I graduated. And then that's how I met the friend and sort of like
Ah,
um, making my drawing, like a lot of life drawing in my portfolio to kind of give it to the studio at
hmm.
that was like 20 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, quite some time ago.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
when you moved
Oh,
to from Bangkok to United States?
oh, that was that's probably 30, 40 years ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah.
basically, your whole art career was in United States.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. And do you maybe remember your first commissions and everything, like how it happened, or you have no
Oh,
memory of it?
my first one was actually I never did any commission at all. I just kind of giving a portfolio to this company called Hula Bee Entertainment, and they're making stuff for
Hmm.
Disney Interactive. And then I just kind of like, okay, I become a 2D animator and just
Oh,
kind of do animating Piglet, Winnie the Pooh, and uh,
nice.
yeah, and Treasure Planet and Monster Inc.
Mm-hmm.
Monster, yeah.
So you never were a freelancer.
I was a full-time first, before I strike out and do my freelance things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
So,
and what was the reason you wanted to start like a YouTube channel and all the teaching type of stuff?
I just like after 2 years at the Hula Bee Entertainment, then I worked for ArenaNet for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And after I was at the ArenaNet, the YouTube thing kind of intriguing me. So I was like, well, maybe I could draw and explaining things to people of what I'm thinking and things like that. So I just kind of start doing my YouTube thingy then. And I didn't even
Mm-hmm.
know that it's gonna like people gonna watch it. So and then people start because it was like way back in the day. I think it was 2000 before 2010. I'm pretty sure, and not many people were doing YouTube back then.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like back then you can only limit the time to like 5 or 10 minutes, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and the quality was quite bad as far as I
Yeah,
remember back then.
I can only do line work, and sometimes when you watch it, it get pixelated.
Hmm.
So you're like, what the hell? Yeah.
Yeah, back in the days it was a bit harder to learn everything, so there
Oh.
were not a lot
Yeah.
of resources.
Yeah. I remember like back then, you used to have to get a DVD to watch, to buy a DVD
Hmm.
to get the art instruction and all that things, like with Norman Studio. Yeah, I bought a bunch
Yeah,
of
and
like.
also this might be the reason why you were like one of not many artists that I found on YouTube when I was like really trying to learn everything back in the days, because like there were not many resources and everything.
I know,
So
right?
pretty much when you were like starting your art career and like started working professionally, is
Yeah.
there anything you feel you could have done differently, so you will, for example, sped up your process of learning everything or like achieving your goals or steps or whatever to call
Oh,
them?
um, well, I kind of, yeah, there was like, sometimes I regret things, but like now that I think back to it, like things happen for a reason. So you know what I mean?
Hmm.
There are reasons that sometimes something didn't work, and sometimes you could have, done this and that, and that might happen. But um, I don't think. But there's a lot of stuff that I could have done better. Like, when I was a 3D modeler, I could have chosen to stick with 3D and become like
Hmm.
3D guys doing modeling and stuff like that. But then, I'm kind of, wow, I love 2D art and love environment. So, but I was doing character design and at the arena, and nobody let me do environment. So, so I have to like,
Nice.
oh, maybe I should. Like usually I have to kind of go out and learn on my own.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, that's not a lot of regret. There's maybe one or two. One time I got recruited by Blizzard and to help with their Diablo 3. But then I was
Nice.
like, kind
Hmm.
of, well, guess I'll stay with ArenaNet. So that would be one of my regret that I still kind of sick, like kick my ass until these days. But I guess things happen for reasons. So um, yeah, so that didn't
And
pan.
do you do 3D modeling still, or you?
Uh, no, no. I after that I did a tons of concept art
Mhm.
for a bunch of game company and
Yeah, because
Square, and yeah, and then some. Um,
also on your Instagram, I saw these 3D model characters that were added pretty recently, and I was like, I have no idea you did any type of 3D. So yeah,
oh
that's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, that was my beginning. I was a 2D animator,
Hmm.
and then I became a 3D modeler, and then I became a concept artist,
Hmm.
and now I became an art director. So that was kind of like my journey um, from from a 2D animator. I can't even animate anymore, not even in
Hmm.
3D or nothing. But I know the principle of how it should look like, I guess.
Hmm.
But and most of the time my job is basically looking over the big picture to make sure that everything looks nice
Hmm.
and everything looks like how the client wanted and everything's on um, the description or the specification that they want, basically. So
And
yeah,
for all the
and
artworks that you have done in your life, like, what are you most proud of? Like,
oh
what project or what company or what painting or
oh,
whatever?
I would say the one that I'm proud of, probably with ArenaNet, because I stayed there for the longest time, about I think it might be over 10 years. Guild Wars and Guild Wars 2, Guild
Hmm.
Wars all. I did a lot of character design for them, and I did terrain texture too. Basically, when I was there, I did everything that I could get my hands on:
Hmm.
creature, character, environment, props, all those grass, even. Yeah, I stayed there for a long time, so I basically did everything, and not that back I was there when there were like less than 10 people. So
Hmm.
I started from the kind of like the junior 3D guy, like from the bottom, and then kind of get my way,
Yeah,
get all.
for all the stories that I ever heard about like the old times, pretty much the concept art was the guy who was like drawing the best in the room.
Yeah,
So there was not like a position of concept art. And because you have like a really, let's say, broad skill set and you have done a lot of different things, what are the topics that you are most interested or most like
oh,
you feel most comfortable with? Like, is this fantasy, science fiction, or
fantasy, and it has to be either the Vikings or the Mongol.
oh,
I love this.
nice.
Yeah, yep. I'm not sure why. I think I like this the gritty
Mm-hmm.
kind of look that they have, and the design, the fur, the toughness, the coldness. Um, Kind of like, what do you call those? The In Game of Thrones, they were like,
Uh-huh.
the
Yeah,
people from the
the
north.
like a rough. Uh-huh.
Yeah, the people from the north or something like that. Those are kind of like the fantasy sort of thing that I kind of like. Not high fantasy, but gritty fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And for your inspirations when you were like growing as an artist, who were or who still are your favorite artists or creators?
Oh, of course, Frank Frazetta, Craig
Mm-hmm.
Mullins, and um, uh, Alphonse Mucha.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a rare
and
one.
yeah. Alphonse Mucha, uh, John William Waterhouse, and Spart was also, and then David Spart, Nicolas Dubois something, and then David Lovey,
Mm-hmm.
and there's so many. Goro Fujita, if you know of that guy,
Yes,
yeah, it's
I am
also
familiar with his works.
yeah, and there's so many people that I like. And I always like kind of look to those guys, and oh man, I can't even name them all. They like
Yeah, I
yeah.
guess it might be a problem. And for like your favorite movies and games, were there like had a huge influence on you or on your career or not really?
Movies, yeah, they are a huge influence. So I like to watch period piece, basically, especially like the Chinese period drama, which there's one on Netflix that has a pretty good costume and the set design, The Rise of the Phoenix. That one's good because I kind of grew up with the Chinese drama, basically, and also I like Tudor, all those period drama, and Vikings, of course.
Mm-hmm.
That one's also good, and Game of Thrones, that's huge too. Oh, and um, and when I did my freelance, I did some of the artwork for George George R. R. Martin for the Game of Thrones illustration book.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, it was like way back in the day, and art's crap. My art, the other people were
Mm-hmm.
good. So yeah.
Nice. And because like I also wanted to focus a little bit more about like how to start actually drawing like on this bigger topic. So if you
Hmm.
like could say, for example, if you had like to teach someone how to start actually drawing or painting, what pretty much would you say like the short story to make them start? What do you think will be the best way to start everything?
So from my experience, just as long as you are drawing, doesn't matter what subject it is. Sometimes you might feel like drawing people. Sometimes you might feel like drawing sub object or um, environment or anything that get your hands and your brain, get your hands to move, your brain to kind of interact with your hands and your thinking. Um, then I think that's legit. But after a while, after you get yourself to through that stage of doing it and make a habit of doing that, then you're gonna have to consider the game plan, right? So you don't
Mm-hmm.
want to just keep drawing or doing the same thing every day, or just get. You have to break out your comfort zone, but first you have to have a habit first. Establish a habit. Not just like, okay, I'm just gonna draw whenever I want, and when I don't want to draw, I'm just gonna go play my fucking video games. Um, you just have to like establish a habit of like maybe you should be able to draw about for like 2 to 3 hours a day at least.
Mm-hmm.
Then after you have that established habits, then you can come up with your game plan of like, okay, this week I'm going to focusing on anatomy, or this week I'm going to focusing on portrait, which I think people would like the subject of people and anatomy would probably be what people would be interested in most. Some people are interested in more of like architecture, which is, that's is also pretty good and valuable. Um, so you could focus on that. Focus on whatever that you think you wanna work on, but focus on them for at least a few months before you change the subject. And you have to force yourself to uh, do that subject until you have enough, what do you call that? A memory, visual memory bank.
Mm-hmm.
So you know it, or you can draw it, or you can um, think about it without having to use reference. Um, but reference is always going to be you can always use reference, especially if you work in this industry. Reference is the key to make everything looks good. But the reason what I was saying, that to kind of get familiar with the game, like, okay, say anatomy, you have to know where the deltoid, the bicep, the tricep, or everything looks like and where it's located, at least without the guidance of the reference first. Then that's going to make your life a lot easier, right? But you cannot, like, if you can use a reference, or if you are not sure, even if you're sure, you still have to take a look at the reference and see if what you are making is as accurate, because accuracy is pretty important in this industry. You don't want to make something that doesn't look correct, and it's going to be pretty obvious to people who are doing it professionally. So, and then after that, once you get through those two stages, you will probably find your way to become a better artist. But the stage two is pretty hard.
Okay, there's one question, like from Roducci. When we say get good at drawing, what do you understand via like getting good at drawing? What does it mean for you?
Getting good at drawing, getting good. Well.
Like when you can say someone is good at drawing, I guess.
Oh yeah, that could never, like, you getting comfortable with what you're drawing. Is probably, I would, good is when you draw something and it looks pretty and people like it, I guess. But or when you draw something and it's look pretty accurate, I guess. Good. There's so many things in drawing that
It's kind of hard to pinpoint like
yeah,
one
it's kind
thing.
of hard. Like what's good? Like good architecture or good anatomy, or you have to be kind of specific.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
you don't have to really care what other people think if it's good or not. What you have to care about is, do you want to pursue it, right? So it's like, if you suck and and people come to you like, oh, your drawing sucks and you're gonna quit. No, if you like it, you're gonna pursue it and keep doing it. So it doesn't matter if your drawing is good or bad. You're gonna keep doing it. And like, okay, here's the thing. As long as you keep doing it every day for like a few months, and the drawing will be good if it's better than your previous, the one that you did 3 months previous before this one. You know what I mean? So as long as there's progression or improvement, then I would say that's a good drawing.
Nice.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess it does. And for you, when you were like, because like with the art, we pretty much all the time are learning something new. What was like your most, maybe not hated, but the hardest topic or the thing that you had most problems with, and how you overcame the problem of learning something, for example, anatomy or perspective or geometry or whatever?
The hardest one would probably be environment. And I'm still struggling with environment. Um,
But as you said, this was one of the things you also wanted to do most, right?
yeah, yeah, and I still
Uh,
still like it. Everything's hard, man. I think
mhm.
everything's hard because the more you do, the more you become dissatisfied because it never really come into the true form of what you really see in your head.
Yeah,
You see what? Yeah.
I know.
So
I know
you
this
can
problem.
you can only hope that it will you'll be happy with something someday, or you'll be totally happy with it.
Hmm.
I mean, whatever you do, um, you can be happy enough that is turn out the way you like. If it's 80% or 70%, or if it is how your clients wants it,
Hmm.
then that I think that should be okay. But to be totally satisfied, that's hard
I guess
because
the
sometimes
problem is the artists are really critical about their artworks most of the time.
yeah, you can always come back and see the mistake, but that doesn't mean that that piece is not legit. You see what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
So it could still be legit. It could still be, but there's always something. You can never finish the artwork, or you can never finish improving. Um, yeah, basically.
Yeah, one of the really nice quotes I heard back in the days was like, the artwork is never finished. It's only
Yes.
abandoned when the artist decided to
Yeah.
abandon it.
Yep.
So I really liked this one. It really nicely explained everything in terms of like doing and finishing everything. And one of the things for also like the beginner artists, because like vast majority of artists can call themselves beginners, even though I am painting for like 10 years at the moment. I still consider myself like, let's say, advanced beginner or something like this.
Mhm.
Like when you were starting, you pretty much only had like a pen, paper, markers, maybe paints,
Yeah.
and a really basic like Photoshop and everything. So there were like not a lot of different tools. And nowadays
Mhm.
you have like dozens of different programs, 3D, generative, algorithms, everything, textures, photo bashing, all the techniques. What
Yep.
is your take on beginners learning all of these techniques, or what would you suggest for them to learn? Like to stick with the basics or to learn everything?
Well, get your foundation. What I mean by foundation is get your like learn how value works, learn how shape works together, and learn how composition works. Doesn't matter if it's a drawing, or doesn't matter if it's a photo batching, or doesn't matter what kind of medium you use
Mhm.
to produce your art, either 3D, 2D, whatever. Um, the, the lighting or the value of the object will um, make your object look real or not. It's pretty lighting is pretty critical because without light you cannot see an object. So that's one thing. And how shape interact. Um, so if you have an interesting shape and good composition, then I think you should be fine. But if you're focusing on character, um, well, there's so many things. Then you're gonna have to know to kind of being accurate with proportion.
Mhm.
What I mean by anatomy is proportion. A lot of time people ignore proportion and going straight right through anatomy, which is
Mhm.
the muscle, bicep, tricep, or all kinds of muscular guy. But then they don't think about proportion, which that's more important than muscle itself. You see what I mean? How the
Mhm.
shape works together, how people stands, like the weight distribution, proportion of the body, and things like
Yeah,
that.
because
Yeah, so
like really often I hear artists saying like, for the beginner you really need to learn how to draw straight lines, then construct
mhm.
everything perspective and like pretty much going through all the basics before you jump into like more complex techniques, like for example, let's say photo bashing, or maybe like learning anatomy. So
Hmm.
for you, pretty much it, as long as you create, if I understood correctly,
Yeah.
there's like no like steps you should take. If you enjoy like photo bashing, you can start and learn through photo bashing and everything, right?
Yeah, please. Yeah, please, by all
Oh.
means. Just as long as it keep you creating something, then it should be good. But the basic still, like whatever you talking about before, like straight
Mm-hmm.
line or all of those foundation, still has to remain within whatever you're trying to do. So whether you're doing photo bashing, then you still have to do it. If you want to do it the right way, then you have to know the foundation of composition, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then when you placing a photo on left, on the right, and then you can kind of be sure that those will work together well. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So as long you like some people don't focus on just being a fine craftsman. Focus on working smart also because that's being a craftsman might take a long time, but when you're photo bashing and you're working smarter and use all kinds of tool to advance yourself, I don't think there's anything wrong with that as long as they look good. You
Mm-hmm.
see what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
they look interesting and everything looks like solid. Um, Make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I understand it. So for you, have you ever felt like because a lot of people and me included, like back in the day, I felt like, for example, photo bashing or like using all these things that make the life easier is
Hmm.
a cheating in some
Cheating.
way. Yeah, have you ever felt like about these things like this?
I heard it all the time, but I mean, when I was working in the video game industry, you see that all the time. So,
Hmm.
whatever get the jobs done, then I guess that's how I basically sort of brought up to see photo batching. You see what I mean?
Hmm.
So, a lot of people are really good with that, and when it's come to drawing, they kind of like not as good. Not that they can't draw, and I think that's also okay because it's kind of like, well, some people are using digital media and some people are using traditional media. You see what I mean?
Hmm.
And some people are using cut paper or origami or and photo bashing is just another media that just kind of coming to these um, crossover with the digital painting. Make sense?
Yeah.
So it's
Hmm.
one medium that help you work faster. It's kind of the preference or the tool that people like to use. And if like what I'm doing right now is kind of crabby, but I do enjoy it. And that's what matters because it keeps you going. So if I enjoy drawing, I'm just gonna kind of draw and do
Hmm.
what the hell, you know.
Yeah,
But if
that's
some
right.
people, yeah, want to enjoy that photo batching, by all means, just batch it away, baby.
Hmm.
So yeah.
And for the industry, like when you were starting and like you are in the industry right now, do you see any like major changes to the industry or how the like level of everything increased, how the tempo increased and everything?
Yeah, I kind of see it like every now and then is now it's like changing or improving even faster than ever because learning can be pretty easy than before and all these free technology that you can use like Blender, you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to go out and spend all your money on these expensive programs. You can just download Blender, you can just
Yeah.
download Unreal, you can just download Unity, and you can, use those tools to kind of like sometimes you can even go into a Unreal Engine and you can just take a screenshot of whatever that you built
Mm-hmm.
on top of 3D, and then instead of using photo batching or taking photo and doing the art, you go into the engine and you kind of create a world and you take a screenshot and then you paint on top of it and then it become a concept art. So that's just
Yeah.
another way of doing things. Or Blender. for that matters.
Yeah,
Make sense?
and yes, and also like a follow-up question because a friend of mine, Laszlo Ede, asked a question. Are you familiar with Art Breeder?
Art, what?
Art
No.
Breeder. It's like it's a really cool site. Later, I will send you the link where you pretty much can just play with sliders and it will generate the images for you. Like, what do you think about using AI for generating images and generating designs? And
Oh, that would
in a
be kind of
sense, are you afraid, quotes, like in a quotes
no.
of
Yeah,
AI?
AI are just tools. So yeah, it can never replace us. So because like just kind of like cameras. We're like think back when Kodak came up with the cameras, or
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Kodak or whoever. Um, and then artists were like afraid of, oh, camera's gonna replace us. You know, all those
That's
painter back
right.
there, yeah, because they're painting like for a commission and all that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. It never happened because painter would just paint what he sees. Even if you're taking a photo, it look real, it look pretty real. The painter can also make, the image look pretty real, but in his own interpretation. See what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like John Singer Sargent, when he painted realistically, he used, the light and the shadow and the simplicity of the shape. And it looks even better than any photograph can ever produce. So AI would just be another tools that will make your life easier, especially for the artist. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my answer is I would love AI to kind of helping us. It's kind of like when you're doing some stuff in production and you have plugged in, those are basically kind of AI. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So you kind of make your life easier in a way. It's like those small little tools that kind of manipulate, certain things in your programs and make your life easier. And even custom brush, I could kind of say that is so some of them are sort of like
Mm-hmm.
artificial. Yeah. So
And also like
yeah.
a really classic question. I guess you heard it like thousands of times because it's a classic question. But what I guess I know the answer. But what is your take on custom brushes and, for example, the photo sampled brushes?
Oh, yeah, it's the same. My answer would be like pretty much the same as photo batching.
So
Yeah,
just a tool, pretty much.
they're just tools. It depends on who use it, right? It doesn't matter if you have the same tool, you'll
Mm-hmm.
be as creative or you'll be as the same as the other guy. See, everybody use them differently. So some people might, use the same brush and making creature, and some people might use the same brush and making um, architecture or some sort of
Yeah, because I
environment.
remember when I was starting, it was like a huge debate if you should like use custom brushes or you shouldn't use custom brushes, and like it pops like every time, like every once in a while, about the brushes, and yeah, usually it's a really let's say a lot of different beginners like are asking
Yeah,
about the brushes and
E-
everything.
even even back in the day when I was start doing YouTube, and a lot
Yeah.
of people were still on the traditional medium, and I always got called out by people using digital medium. They're like, "This is not art." I was
Yeah.
like, "Sure, yeah,
Yeah, even to
whatever."
this day, it's problem with it because when I was studying and had some traditional painting classes, the professor,
Yeah,
uh, like, okay, I painted pretty much nothing in the traditional classes because I don't really enjoy paints, but I brought my
yeah,
digital artworks, and
yeah,
the professor was like, "Oh, it's really cool, like perfect score, A plus, and everything." But his assistant
right?
was like,
Yeah,
"No, it's not a painting. No, we cannot like value this. It's done in computer. It's not a real art." So I guess the problem is still there.
yeah. It's kind of like the same thing. They have to like everybody has to realize that these are just tools to like you
Hmm.
trying to express yourself, and these are just tools.
Yeah, there were like a lot of like hardcore artists like splashing
Yeah.
paint and making like a thick layers of paint to make textures. There were like artists like in a typical
Yeah.
like
And
sense.
yeah, for like in my own opinion, I don't think anybody should care whether the other person of how the other person is doing art.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean? So it's like it's his preference or it's his choice. So as long as he's happy with it, and as long as he doesn't harm another human
Mm-hmm.
being, then I guess it's
And
legit.
doesn't valid any licensing because now this is a bigger problem, to be honest.
Oh yeah. Oh
Mm.
yeah, I heard a lot about
Yeah,
that. Like
but I
people steal
guess,
criminal things. Yeah.
for example, if you have like a really, for example, let's say Craig Mullins, I guess
Mhm.
when you really discover how he makes a lot of his artworks, like that there
Mhm.
is a lot of photo bashing involved and like
Yep.
combining different artworks and everything he had done like previously.
Yep.
Have you ever felt like it kind of lost, like it's magic, or it was like, oh,
Mm,
cool?
well, I guess if you like it, you like it. It doesn't matter what it's made of. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it if I think it depends on the person. Some people might think, when they know um, how they made or whatever, the value changes. To me, as long as it's inspired me and making me, giving me that feeling of like I'm wanting to do something, when I saw that, then that is enough. See
And
what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah, I
and a
don't
small follow
nothing
up to
beyond.
this. Was there a thing that you felt is completely different in the industry than it like actually is? Like you had like a fake idea of something,
Mhm.
or
What
differently, what was way different than you thought in the
What do
industry?
you mean?
Mm, let's for example say like a basic example, you thought everyone is like sitting around the table drawing all the concept traditionally, like no tricks involved, but it turns out pretty much everything is like photobashed and everything. Like, was there a thing that was vastly different from your expectations?
Uh, it depends on, like, I think everybody has different process. Some of the people are still doing the traditional stuff. I think it depends on the job. Like some of the jobs, like you're working for a studio that work for Disney or DreamWorks or things like that, then you're gonna have to do everything basically by hand, drawing cartoon design and drawing environment in different shape, experiment with shapes, and those are legit, even though they don't look as like if you ever pick like the art of those high-end animation, you see that a lot of them are pretty cartoony,
Hmm.
and a lot of them are just using line and flat colors and all those kind of things. um, but if you're working for film, then you're gonna tend to see a lot more realistic stuff, like along the line of Craig Mullins or um, Ian McCaig, or you know
Hmm.
what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
So to shorten the time, I guess a lot of people in the concept industry has to use photo bash so that they can see things clear, and it will become cheaper for the
Hmm.
production
Yeah,
to
especially since like now the productions are like extremely huge.
yeah. So I guess, and I love recently I've been looking at a bunch of Spider-Verse.
Hmm.
Those are pretty awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Great. And okay, I guess the time is up for you
Yeah.
because you had to get back to work. So thanks a lot
Yep.
for being in the
You're
stream.
welcome.
It
Thanks for
was,
having me.
yeah, it was a
Yeah.
pleasure to meet you, to talk to you, and thanks once again because pretty much you are the reason you are here today. So yeah,
Oh,
it
thanks.
it
I
was great.
appreciate it.
If anyone has any questions like Lev, just feel free to ask them in the comments. Maybe later, like I will
Yeah, you can send
redirect
those to
them,
me and I'll answer them.
yeah,
Okay.
to Xia. And your name is like just a last question. It's Xia. How to pronounce your
Yeah.
name? Ah,
Yeah, it's yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
All right.
So thanks a lot, and have a nice day, and
You
goodbye.
too. Nice to meet you.
Yeah,
Keep drawing. All
yeah.
right.
See ya.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Maybe to the next time.
Yeah.